Hello YouTube. Well, today I'm in Carthage, Missouri, and I'm going to check out the Battle of Carthage Civil War Museum. So let's go inside and check it out. If you remember your history and the Missouri Compromise, as they were states coming in to the Union, Texas, and you notice Texas also back then included what Indian Territory, which was Oklahoma now. Missouri was supposed to be a free state, but it was settled by not only people from the north, you can see it butts right up against Illinois, but also a lot of farmers from the south, especially down along the southern end. We're way over here in along the border close to Kansas. So the years leading up to the Civil War, a lot of sentiments were running really high as to pro-slavery and anti-slavery. Kansas was a lot of anti-slavery. And but the thing is, along southern Arkansas, it for most of the people were subsistence farmers. They just grew enough to be able to get through winter and just barely keep going. It made more sense to spend money on a mule than to have human labor that they'd have to feed. It was cheaper to feed a mule. And so although slavery was common in the area, it wasn't like everybody. I get a lot of people talking about how the Civil War was about states' rights. Read up on it. It was more the states' right to let people have slaves. So in this area and a lot of the border states, there was no neutrality. In the beginning, people could be for, against, either way, and just say, or just want to just stay out of it. It's none of my business. Trouble is, it's along the way, it became their business because, this side or that side killed, burned down somebody, a relative's house, your house, killed people, friends, family. Now, what would you do? You're going to choose a side. And so in this area, it really wasn't, you may want to not talk about which side you went to, sort of like it is today. You don't want to get into a big thing with everybody. So some things change and some things don't. So immediately after the raid on Fort Sumter in April of 1861, the Governor Jackson tried to have the Missouri State Legislature pass Articles of Secession to withdraw from the Union, and the effort narrowly failed. And largely because the representatives from St. Louis were very pro-Union. So the Union's response basically was to, the Union did Camp Jackson just outside the city, and away from the arsenal and drill and all that. And they basically, without a shot being fired, captured the state militia. Then they made the mistake of parading them through downtown, and a lot of the sympathizers, Confederacy sympathizers, would throw rocks, and it ended up being a big riot that ended up killing 28 civilians, let's see, 4 of the Union men and 2 women and 1 small child. And some reports who said that Grant and Sherman had both witnessed the riots. So those riots caused General Lyon, who led the Union forces, to declare martial law in the state. This infuriated the state legislature, and they authorized Governor Jackson to create a new state militia, the Missouri State Guard. He appointed General Sterling Price as the commander, and it was a pro-Southern militia. As Lyon pursued them, he'd heard that they were. He made Springfield his area. We're like about an hour's drive, about 50 miles from Springfield, and he'd heard that the governor and the militia were going to be in Carthage, where we are. So at 4 a.m. on July 5th, 1861, so it was early on in the Civil War. Remember, Fort Sumter was in April, so this is 3 months later. Yeah, 3 months later. Gonna do the April, May, June. So they get a nice little diorama here, is that the battle started along what is known as Dry Creek. And you got the Union forces coming in, the Confederate forces, and Union forces, Confederate forces. The Union did they set up some cannon. They were firing into the Confederates, did a lot of damage. They beat the heck out of the Confederate forces. But they used this cannon to cover a retreat, and this kind of a formation here, or to protect the supply wagons, is common in Europe, but that's probably the only time it was used here. Confederate horsemen tried to come in and take it, but the commander of this unit had a bayonet charge that spooked the horses and confused the heck out of them, very brave, and scattered them. Meanwhile, the artillery down here was keeping the Confederates at bay up to a point, and they basically chased them into the courthouse square. And this is where the final fighting of that battle took place. I showed you this picture. It's outside, and they call it the Petticoat Flag. And they're one of the few families that supported the Union. Was the former Sheriff Hood and his wife Melinda, and their children, and they lived in a log cabin, or lived right near the square. As the Union forces were marching in, the one daughter, Lucy, bravely lifted up her skirt to show that her and her sister's hand-sewn American flag, which really boosted the spirits of the Union soldiers marching in. It's been known as the Petticoat Flag. Of course, Missouri was a big battleground state. A lot of battles along that southern border and whatnot. And being near Kansas, you got Quantrell's Raiders, and his lieutenant Bloody Bill Anderson, but the raiders also included Frank James and the Youngers, and they were basically did a guerrilla warfare along the border and fought a lot into Kansas. They're the ones that Lawrence, Kansas, which don't believe I've visited yet, but they raided that and basically killed a lot of people and burned the town down, and that's what they were really known for. But so this painting is of the hanging of Moses' power, and it was a kind of thing that the guerrillas did. These were the first white couple to be married in Jasper County. They lived just southeast of Carthage. One night during the war, some of the guerrillas came in and they demanded to know where he kept his money. He said all he had was Confederate money. They tied him and made him run behind a horse, and when he was exhausted, they threw a rope around his neck and hung him. His wife ran out with a knife, cut the rope down. He did survive, but because it had injured his neck, he always had his head tilted off to one side. Now, there's a movie, Rock Hudson and John Wayne, called The Undefeated, where a Confederate colonel is leading his forces to Mexico. And, it's an interesting movie. And the idea was that he was going to lead his forces to Mexico and get Maximilian, who was the dictator of Mexico at the time, to grant them set aside a state to be the new Confederacy. I never knew it, but that was based on this guy, sorta. His Joseph O. Shelby, who was known as J.O. to his friends, he grew up in Waverly, near Waverly, and he had a hemp plantation. And that's pretty much he did. He was assigned a unit with the State Guard Forces, Commissioned Independent Cavalry, and he covered Jackson's retreat and a lot of stuff. But like I said, he actually, at the end of the Civil War, this area was like 3 months after Appomattox, and the Trans-Mississippi Department was the last regional command of the Confederacy to surrender. And he said, nope, hell no, I'm going to Mexico, and led his troops down there. Within about 2 years, they gave up on that idea. Maximilian had been overthrown, and he did come back and did another hemp farm. But it's one of those things that I never knew that movie was based on anything true. Loosely based. And the other connection is Belle Starr, and she's from not too far from here, and I recognize that picture right away because that's a famous picture of Belle Starr. And I'll let you read up on her yourself. But I think that's going to end my visit here. If you're passing anywhere near Joplin, Missouri, go north a little bit. Come up, check this out. They got a lot of artifacts here that I didn't show you that are really, really cool for a history buff like myself. So I'm going to get back on the road, and I will see you later. See you down the road, and be safe, my friends. Bye. So before I leave Carthage, you got to see this courthouse. Now, I don't know when this was built, but this thing is just amazing and gorgeous. I mean, I wonder if you could get up with permission, I'm sure, get up on those turrets, I suppose you'd call them, towers. I mean, this thing is just beautiful. And it sits here in the, obviously, Courthouse Square, where the last portions of the Battle of Carthage took place. But pretty cool.